If you're one of the millions of people who are trying to get an online business and you don't know what to sell or you don't know where to start and you have no idea what's going on, then this video is for you. And this video is going to be one of the most important videos I've made yet. And it's going to just be a breakdown of 10 different models that you can go into and you can use to start making money online. So, I am a very big proponent of the agency business model as the best way to get to 10, 20, 30, and $50,000 a month online. The reason that that is because it takes not much money to start up. All you need to do is invest time into learning and to building a skill stack and building a skill set. And all you really need to do is just invest that time and turn it into money. And you can literally spawn money from the sky. And so there's 10 different agency business models that I recommend. So you have info products, you have UGC, you have UX, UI design, you have software development, you have email marketing, you have content production, you have, what else? I got to look at the thing. Hold on, give me a second. There's so many. Okay, you have info products, you have advertising, can't believe I forgot that one. And then you have AWS, cloud, and software engineering. So a lot of these are going to be super complicated. I recommend starting off with something simple. Oh, and also you have consulting. So eventually you're going to turn your business into something where if you fall into one of these niches or you fall into one of these business models, you're going to need to eventually sell different downsells, upsells, complementary services, complementary products, and you're going to need to refer business elsewhere if you just simply can't deliver or you are not the best fit for the job. And a network is very powerful for that. And there's a lot of guys that I know and a lot of guys that are students of mine or people that have, learned under me who basically just refer business. Either someone signs a deal, someone signs a client, they need video production, they go here. They need media buying, they go here. They need advertising, they go here. They need email, they go here. And so it's kind of just this system of how can we take on deals together and make money and deliver the best possible service or the best possible product possible. So I don't recommend going into video stuff if you're not good with video. I don't recommend creating content if you're not good at making content or not good at speaking on camera. I don't recommend going into copywriting or email marketing in an English speaking market if English isn't your first language. I don't recommend doing anything that you're not good at. So if you don't know where to start and you don't know what to sell, the best thing that you can possibly do is just figure out what you're already good at and then leverage that. So I had sales experience, so I knew that I could go into any single business model and I could succeed if I just simply learned how to do the service delivery or if I found someone to help me do the service delivery, which I was able to do in different things like advertising and stuff like that. So you really go into different marketplaces here and you just figure out what you're going to be good at. So you have to know what your strengths are and you have to know what your weaknesses are, number one. And you can learn any skill, but the skill that you learn and the skill stack that you develop has to be in tangent and it has to be tangential to your own skill set that you've already developed over the course of your life. Now, if you don't know anything and you're a blank slate, then you can simply just learn anything and eventually get pretty good at it and then sell that as a service. Things are very easy to learn these days in theory, but when it comes to implementation and when it comes to actually getting results, like I see people starting advertising agencies and they don't even care about advertising. I see guys going into marketing agencies and lead generation. Oh, lead generation's another one where they don't even care about how to actually deliver for the client. They don't care about what it takes to actually get leads. So if you want to start a marketing agency, the number one thing that you have to do, and I will say this from the bottom of my heart, and I'll say it so damn passionately, is you have to learn marketing. You have to learn how people operate, how business operates. And you have to learn how to look at different opportunities in the marketplace and leverage those. Because if you don't, then you're going to get left in the dust by people who understand the principles of direct response, who understand advertising, who understand video and video rich media. And you're going to just get absolutely crushed. So you have to learn marketing and you have to eventually develop yourself into a person where, okay, maybe you have a certain set of skills, you have that skill stack, but you have to learn marketing. And marketing is going to be the fundamental thing that you have to do when you start a marketing agency. Because when you start a marketing agency, you have to learn what marketing is. How do we actually talk to people? What is this entire thing that we're getting into? And so if you do marketing, it's different than doing software. If you're good at software and you're a computer guy and you're naturally introverted and you know how to code and you know how to do all that stuff, or you just simply like design, you can get into software, you can get into web design. You can do all these different things. But I highly recommend that you get into something where you have a natural affinity for it. Because if you don't have a natural affinity for it, you're going to not only be competing against all these other people who have a natural affinity for it and actually like it and want to be the best that they possibly can, but you need to understand that if you play to your weaknesses, you end up fighting a really, really, really difficult uphill battle. So what my goal is for this video is to tell you that, look, you don't have to just pick the next hot thing. You don't have to help creators scale with info products if you have no idea about the principles of direct response and copywriting and video scripting and VSLs and offer creation. The skill stack that is required to be successful, and when I mean successful, I mean highly successful. I'm talking $50,000 to $100,000 a month in that business model. It is a lot, and you have to have years of experience and you have to be really, really good. You can't just go into a market and start, oh, I'm going to make a paid community and think that you're going to be successful. You can't just go and hit somebody up and say, oh, give me 50% of the business, even though I have no experience, and go and make tons of money. It just doesn't work like that. What does work is building out on top of the fundamental principles of marketing. So you can have a marketing agency that specializes in creating video-rich content that is used for advertising on Snapchat or advertising on Facebook or Instagram or Pinterest or any other advertising media. And you can go into these things and you can start to build out the skill set, but you have to have an understanding of what's working, what doesn't work, and how you can improve. And the entire process of building this agency, especially if you're starting from literally ground zero, is to understand how to look at markets and understand what's working. So if you see an ad 50 times, then there's ad spend behind that ad and there's principles behind it that are working. If you see TikToks going viral, then there's something about that TikTok that people liked in order to keep watching it, or the algorithm wouldn't push it. If you see brands that are crushing it in e-commerce, you have to understand, okay, well, what is behind this brand? Why does it work? How does it work? And how can I take these principles and implement it for myself so that I can be successful? So you want to play to your strengths, and I always recommend playing to your strengths. You have to do things, and I'll say it again, that you have a natural affinity for, because if you don't have a natural affinity, you're probably cooked. You're not going to make it. So for me, right, I was never going to get into some sort of software engineering role. I'm very much so focused on acquisition. I'm a natural salesperson, and I wasn't the best at sales when I first started out, imagine. And I'm a natural salesperson, and I realized, okay, well, if I have to live on one side of the business, then I have to live on the client facing and the acquisition side. If I'm going to live on one side of the business in my agency, especially when I was doing email marketing for e-commerce as a full-time thing when I got started, I realized that I sucked at doing design. Even though I loved making websites, and I still make all of my own websites and all of my things that I do, I still make them myself. But at some point you realize, okay, my time is better spent focusing on what I'm good at. And so, especially when you're in a business and you're a solo operator or you're a solopreneur, you have to start to realize, okay, the only way that I'm going to grow is if I focus on what I'm good at. Now, if you're learning from me, then you're probably a salesperson, or you're probably, looking at getting into sales or looking into starting an agency. And your business does not work if you can't acquire customers. Your business simply will not make money if you can't go and get money in the door and spawn it from the sky. So there's 10 different models, 11, 12 different models. Now I focus mainly on consulting and some other things, and we have some little side projects going on in the software space. And I focus on this stuff because it's just simply what I know. It's simply what I'm good at. And I'm not focused on going and running an agency to do short form content for people. I'm not focused on going and mainly doing advertising because I don't really like messing around with the ads manager. If I want to do advertising, well, I know 30 people in my network who are spending $10 million or more a month across their client accounts, and I can just hit them up for advice. Or if I want to take on a client, I want to do something, I just hit them up. So it's really about, if you don't know where to start or you don't know what to sell, you have to think about your life and think about what you like, what you're passionate about, and then what you're good at. And you're eventually going to live amongst a healthy balance between those three things. And if you're good at design and you have an eye for architecture, then focus on doing something in the realm of design and architecture. If you there's no sense to be a designer or an architect and then go focus on email marketing for e-commerce brands. It doesn't compute. It doesn't make sense. So you want to do things that you're good at. If you're a really skilled video editor, or you've always loved cinema or loved video, and you're obsessed with making the best movies possible or the best video content possible, then go into some sort of video agency. There's guys who crush it that I know, like Presley Milton, who is a savage, and he has a YouTube agency and he crushes it. And the reason why he crushes it is because him and his partner are so passionate about what they're doing. The reason why is because they're just great at making movies and great at making content, and they go in and they partner with people to make great content because that's what they're focused on, making great content. There's people who love marketing and love ecom and love brands and love fashion who go into email marketing because they're just a fairly competent writer. And so there's all types of different people that can do all types of different things. And now I just gave you a list of things. I don't recommend info products. Info products are really, really difficult, especially now in the marketplace, because there's very few people who are highly hyper successful. The average guru makes like 10 grand a month. They make literally less than most marketing agency owners. If you're doing advertising, right, you have to start to become obsessed about advertising and psychology and what makes people tick and metrics and data, right? Advertising is different than marketing because marketing is about psychology and advertising is about data. Advertising is what's our cost per click, what's our cost per lead, what's our cost per acquisition or cost per customer. How do we make those numbers lower so that we make more money in terms of our return on ad spend? You have to be obsessed with it. And so anything that you do and anything that you're going to start and anything that you're going to sell, you have to be convicted in and you have to really understand the process behind it. And if you don't know where to start and you don't know what to sell, you can literally, if you're a blank slate, pick any of these things and have a degree of success with them. And once you have a degree of success, well, you've spent this time and you've invested this energy into learning a skill. And that skill is going to pay dividends for the rest of your life. Because if you continue to use the skill, like the skill of sales or the skill of marketing, these two skills combined will make you money forever. And if you learn from somebody who's just further ahead of you, you're going to be making money forever if you continue to use those skills. If you learn a language and you don't use it, you end up forgetting the language. Like, I know Spanish and I'm not the best at speaking Spanish when I don't use it, but if I'm partying and I'm in Mexico, my Spanish is great. So you want to make sure that you're just doing things that you have a natural affinity for and doing things that you're good at. And if you're not good at anything, well, then it's a perfect time to get good at something, because most of the time, all that exists between where you are now and where you want to be in terms of your own financial success and the money that you make is just a very small skill gap. And when you get into the marketplace and you start competing with these big players, then there's a larger skill gap. But for you to go from 0 to 10K or 20K a month with your own business, you have to be average at best. And there's zero chance, if you do this long enough and you work hard enough at it and you commit to it, that you don't make more than $20,000, $30,000 a month if you're just simply focused on getting customers and making sure that you deliver the best service or the best product possible. That being said, I want you to understand this. You should not be focused on things you are bad at. If you do not speak English, do not try to sell to people that speak English. Sell to people in your own language. I got this question a few days ago on a Twitter space. Hey, I'm having a hard time selling to Americans, and it's a guy that I know, and he's Italian. And I said, well, you do CRO. He does something called conversion rate optimization for e-commerce brands. Now, the best guy that I know in that business is my friend, and he works with some of the biggest brands on the internet. Like, he works with some of the biggest direct-to-consumer brands in the world, and he's a German guy, and he sells to Americans all the time because his English is very, very good. But he also sells to Germans, and he has German brands that he works with. And so, because his English is really good, he's good with selling to Americans and people who speak English in Australia and UK and across the world. But if you speak broken English or you're very hard to understand if you're from another country, you are literally at a massive disadvantage trying to sell to Americans if you're not American. If you're Australian, I recommend to sell to Australians. If you're from the UK and you're English or you're Irish, you sell to Irish people, or you sell to people in the UK, you sell to English people. It's very, very simple. So the entire thing, and the mistake that a lot of people make when they're just first starting out, is that they're just selling to people in different marketplaces that don't even speak their language. Like they're like from Latvia, or they're from Estonia, or they're from Sweden, and they're not selling in their main language. Like if you speak a language and it's your first language, do sales in that language and do transactions and do deals in that language. I'm very passionate about that because that is very, very important. Because if you're able to sell to people in your own market, they trust you more because of a principle called the familiarity principle. So, that being said, all you need to do is continue to focus on what you're good at and what you're not good at. Because if you can go and do that, you're going to find more success faster. I don't want you to get caught up in a situation where you're just listening to everyone else online with the next business model, with the next big thing, and you try 50 different things, none of them work out, and you didn't try them long enough to get over something called the pain threshold in order to become actually good. Every single thing that you do, you're always going to start out pretty bad at. When I started playing guitar when I was 3 years old, 4 years old, I was bad at guitar. But 20 years later, I can play anything I want, whenever I want, and even if I'm out of practice, I still sound good. With sales, right? When I started out in sales when I was 21 years old, now I'm 27 as I record this, I have developed a skill set over 6 years, and I actively practice that skill set, which is why I became so good. If you practice speaking on camera, you're going to get good at speaking on camera. If I practiced editing videos, I'm going to get good at editing videos. I've built these skills up over the years. I've built my skill stack up. And now I can pretty much do anything, where all of my experience and everything that I do in my business and everything that I sell and everything is simply just an amalgamation. If you don't know what that word is, look it up. It's a cumulative thing. It's an amalgamation. It's a Frankenstein of all of my years of experience. And it's a very happy place for me to live, because it means that I'm only focusing on things I'm good at. I'm only doing things I'm good at, which means I get to win at everything that I do if I try really hard, because I've built this experience up over the years where it's like, okay, I know to do that. I know how to link that with that. And to a point where it almost becomes rote, where it becomes second nature. If you play guitar long enough, you know about something called improvisation. Now, every guitar solo, if you ever look at Zeppelin or Led Zeppelin or Jimmy Page or Jimi Hendrix or any of the great guitar players, or any great musician for that matter, you know that they can just get up and they can play and they play and they play. And Led Zeppelin was doing 40-minute guitar solos, right? Those are not scripted. None of this stuff is scripted. Even these videos I'm doing aren't scripted. It's just me talking about my experience and what I know, up until the point where it just simply becomes second nature. And if you're able to begin to operate in your business, especially after you cross and it only happens after you cross the pain threshold, you are going to live very happily on one side of your business where you understand, okay, I can do this stuff. It makes money. I learn all these skills. You don't ever have to be the best at sales, because eventually, once you start making money, you can get to a point where you can bring on someone that can do sales for you. And you just stick to what you're good at. If you're great at video, do video. If you're great at UX or UI or design or websites or branding or something like that, just stick to that. If you're great at sales, focus on getting customers and getting people in the door, and then find someone to partner with. It's super simple when you start to put everything together, and it's like this massive puzzle piece where all the pieces are scattered. And eventually, once you get a bird's eye view and you stand up and you look at the puzzle on the floor, you start to eventually figure it out. And it's a beautiful, beautiful place to live, and it's a beautiful place to do business in. So you really want to make sure you focus on your strengths and not your weaknesses. And you want to use different frameworks and just kind of look at your life. And this is what I did when I was first starting out: was I took all of my things I was good at. I said, okay, well, what am I good at? And then what am I bad at? Okay, well, what business can I start that is in alignment with all these things I'm good at? Well, I know how to sell. I know small business. I know how to complete transactions. I know how to close. I know how to get deals moving forward. I know how to make things make sense. Cool. I can pick any business, which is a beautiful place to be in, because I had the world by the balls and I had so much opportunity in front of me. And so I said, okay, well, what is the lowest risk to the customer, to the prospect, or to the potential client? And what has the highest reward? And so I sat there and I looked at it and I said, okay, well, this is going to be a thing that I can do. And I know how to sell, and I know how to make things look pretty to a certain degree. And so I landed upon this whole ecom email marketing thing, which now years later is saturated to all fuck. But we're in a great place here. And so now I can kind of just focus on the things that I want to do. And I know how to make things work because sales is always going to be the backbone of any business. You always want to know how to sell. Even if you're not the best at it, you want to get at least good at it to where you can bring people in the door and you can get customers and you can make things make sense. And then you just figure out, okay, well, what am I good at and what business model looks cool to start? And so you can kind of just pick and choose and you can try different things. And once you try enough things, you're going to be like, okay, well, I didn't really like doing that. I really didn't like doing that, but I really liked that. It's also equivalent to like dating different girls, right? I know I have a lot of men that watch me. There's a few girls apparently in the comments that say, "Hey, I'm a girl and I watch your stuff," which is, much love to you, love you. But it's equivalent to like dating girls or like girls dating guys, and it's like you'll date a bunch of girls and you'll figure out what exactly you do want and what you don't like so that you can figure out what you do like. And it's the same thing with business. And I think dating and business are also very similar. But you have to figure out what you don't like doing so that you can figure out what you do like doing. And you do that by dialing in on what you have a natural affinity for and then figuring out, okay, well, which one of these business models is working because every business model works to a certain degree. Some are just harder to do business in. Like if I wanted to start a pharmaceutical company or a manufacturing company, I have zero clue about what machinery I need in order to develop pharmaceuticals. I have zero clue about what I need to do in order to go get customers and acquire clients from a manufacturing company. I don't even know what we'd manufacture. I don't know how much it costs. I don't know anything about it. So I'm simply not getting into that business. Now, I'm sure I could figure it out given enough time, but you have to understand where, okay, is this going to be something that's viable within my time frame? So, I know that this was a long video. I know this had a lot of information in it. Point of the matter is, focus on your strengths, not your weaknesses, and make sure that you continue to show up every day and do the right things. And do not, please do not give up on yourself. I have made well over $1 million online in the past 3 years. I have made lots of money. I've been successful in tons of different industries. I've also failed in a ton of different industries, and I kind of know exactly what I don't want to do. Like e-commerce is one of those things. I do not want to do e-commerce. So tons of stuff going on. Pick what you're good at. Don't pick what you're bad at. It's fairly simple. If you don't know where to start, you can literally start with anything. The principles and the fundamentals are always going to be the same no matter what business that you're in. The reason why that I teach the principles and the fundamental skill stacks is because you can use these in any different single business model to become successful. And this is the most important thing here. You build the skill stacks up, you use them, you implement them, and then you get a really good idea of what you're good at, what you're not good at, and then you move forward from there. Your business eventually becomes this kind of hybrid between service delivery and this amalgamation of all this experience that you have over the years. And you put it together, you end up making loads of money and driving a Lamborghini. And that's that. If you want some free stuff, go ahead, click the link in the description, absolutely free. My goal with these videos, and I've said this in so many of the other videos, is that to just give you as much value and as much game as possible so that you don't end up like the homeless people here on the street in LA. And also, there's a ton of idiots online. I don't want you to be one of them. I want you to make money. I want you to be successful. And that's the reason I make these videos. And I just hope you enjoyed this. I want you to use it. I want you to implement it. And make sure you go ahead, click the stuff in the description if you want it. And if not, I will see you in the next video. My name is David, and thank you for watching. Much love.